WVOX.
Good morning once again, friends. 8:36. And on the line right now is the chairman of the County Board of Legislators, the chairwoman of the Government Operations Committee, Catherine Borgia, who I had it mixed up. I had her on, but that was last week. She's in her regular spot here at 8:35, and I welcome her back to the show. Good morning, Ms. Borgia.
Good morning. How are you?
Madam Chairwoman, I am well, thank you. All right, so it looks like you got your uniform dirty. Here we go. Catherine Borgia firing off a missive at the Astorino administration. Truly unfortunate, disgraceful. Westchester County may lose over $7 million in federal funding, et cetera, so forth.
It's something that I feel pretty passionately about.
No kidding.
Obviously, I know that you are probably aware that I come from local government.
Right.
I worked in the village of Ossining and the town of Ossining.
Right.
And I know how much that our communities do depend on this CDBG funding. And it's interesting because I also think that this is a failure of leadership. And I do think that there's a part for the Board of Legislators to play in rectifying this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think there's a lot of time in government.
Right.
I know I have been in the position in government where I have felt I was right about a situation.
Right.
I'm correct about this situation. But the consequences of pursuing that line of action are more risky and have such potential downsides for the community for which I am the steward.
Right.
So sometimes you have to make compromises. It's a hard reality.
Mm-hmm.
We come into this business with our ideological points of view, and that's good. And people vote for you because they agree with you or because they think that you'll be a good representative for them. So
right.
I don't mind people having different points of view than mine. I think that makes for a healthy discourse, healthy dialogue. Oftentimes, you come up with a better solution when you hear different points of view.
Sure.
And it's an elected representative's job to really listen to all the different points of view.
Right.
But there comes a time when the consequences are too great for standing on a point of view that you have that might not be 100% correct.
Right.
And I think we're at that point with the Astorino administration. I know that they are very much against working with the federal government in these two areas. We have done at the county level, and I credit the administration and I credit the hard work of the planning department and the work of the local municipalities. We've done a good job in actually moving forward on the housing component, but that's not the only component in that settlement.
Right.
And we have to work
What's the other component?
I'm sorry?
The other component is?
Right. There's two other components that are the subject of this particular matter, the letter that we received from the federal government.
Right.
One is that we haven't resolved this issue of source of income housing. The Board of Legislators passed a law.
Right.
The settlement says that the county executive will promote source of income housing.
Right.
The Board of Legislators, prior to my service on the board, passed a law. The county executive vetoed it.
Right.
So we're at a stalemate. There's
and now
nothing before us.
And that's Section 8. Basically, generally speaking, at Section 8, correct?
Section 8 is the most prevalent voucher system.
Right, I know. And I know you guys like to bring up the veterans first, but it's Section 8. Now,
and you know what? You know what's an interesting thing, TJ, is
what?
that the government has actually identified Section 8 vouchers and other type of voucher programs as a woman's issue, which I never really thought about it in that way prior to him doing this. Because in the village of Ossining, we have a Section 8 office that works pretty well. The Section 8 program functions pretty well in the community that I'm the most familiar with. Section 8 is not a bad program. It's a good program. It helps middle-class people afford housing. We know that housing is one of our biggest expenses here in Westchester County. But what I didn't realize, and, shame on me for not realizing this, is more than 70% of the people who have these vouchers are women with children.
Right.
So the governor has identified source of income legislation, actually, as one of his points for his women's equality.
Well, the trouble is, though, is that, listen, you see, you got 70% are women. You've got, I know somebody who's a dear friend of mine, a listener to the show, a supporter of mine for a long time now, who was a Section 8 recipient up in another part of New York State. And, it's kind of like the whole immigration thing. There's people who come here, they do the right thing, and they get real ticked off when people, break the system and do the wrong thing. And similarly, Section 8, you've got other people who claim Section 8 and then basically abuse the system. And you know, to compel landlords to have to take somebody who's offering a Section 8 voucher, to compel a landlord, you know, it's just not right. And it's
Well, let me ask you this question then, since you've made that analogy. And usually you don't hear people actually saying that, and I'm grateful to you for actually saying that, because usually what people who are against Section 8 say is, oh, it's too onerous, and the landlord has to keep up the apartment in a way that's too onerous for a landlord to keep it up.
Oh, but that's
so most
true.
People don't say that. Most people don't say that they object to the people, the few bad people on Section 8. But let me ask you this question. This is a serious question.
Yeah.
Do you object to the fact that people are not allowed to discriminate against people who receive alimony or child support as part of their income? Do you think that that's a good thing?
I think that's fine, but that's apples and oranges. Why
is it apples and oranges? Because it's a guaranteed source of income.
Don't ask me a question and then keep talking. The one is mandated by the court, and the other one is something that can change at any given moment. Someone can lose their subsidy at any given moment. The other one is mandated by the court. Somebody has ramifications if somebody doesn't get that money.
But Section 8 is you can't lose it at any moment unless you are one. I mean, you qualify for the program.
Section
and
8
there's a recertification.
Section 8
there
only
is a recertification program every year. That's
if somebody loses their funding, they only have to give 17 days notice. Section 8 is not responsible to pay a security deposit. Section 8 is not responsible for damage to the apartment. Section 8.
So, but what does that matter? So that already.
What does that matter?
You're already.
Go tell that to the landlord who's got to re-drywall his place. That's what matters, Madam Chairwoman.
No. You're already allowed to say we're not going to rent, even if you have Section 8 voucher. You can say we can't rent to you because you can't pay your security deposit. The source of income legislation doesn't change that, right? But the source of income legislation says that if that's a legal source of income that you're not allowed to discriminate against. If the person can't pay their rent anyway, they can't pay their portion of it, or they can't pay their security deposit. That doesn't change that.
Where does Rob Esther, where has by the way, and we're talking to Catherine Borgia in our first passionate discussion of her appearances on my show.
I'm always passionate, DJ.
Well, no, usually it's a lot more lighthearted, but this time it's good. It's good though. But here's the thing, Ms. Borgia, the Astorino administration, they claim that they have been upfront and given a whole lot of information to HUD, to the Obama administration's HUD, and I know all this came down under the Bush administration, but it's been five long, arduous years of the Obama administration, and it's an activist Department of Justice. We know that. Anyway, it's the Obama HUD administration. The Astorino administration says, "Hey, we've given them all. They just refuse to accept it. We've given them what they want. They just refuse." So, where is the Astorino administration mishandled and/or bungled?
I think that there has been bungling. I'm the recipient in my committee. We get the reports every 2 weeks from the planning department and the person, Mary Mann, a very lovely and professional woman who works in the administration, who gives us the reports. That's true that they have given a lot of information, and I don't think. Let me say first of all. That I think that Westchester County has always recognized the need for affordable housing and has been very over the many years been very progressive and smart about how they handle the creation of affordable housing. I've been part of a lot of those projects, so I know that there's a lot of work that goes into that. And I'm not saying what I'm saying is we're at a stage at the settlement. The settlement exists. The monitor in the settlement was given the right to ask for more information, and there comes a time when you have to work collaboratively with people who you consider, obviously the Astorino administration considers the federal government to be their antagonist. The county executive has said it on Fox News.
Well, they are. Please. Of course they are. Of course they're the antagonist. They're the Obama administration.
Okay, all right, so we're in agreement on this.
Sure.
They're the antagonist in this. But this is what I'm talking about at the beginning. At some point, when you're the steward of a community and the county executive is a steward of the county of Westchester, you can't keep poking the bear if the bear has a right to swipe at you, because the swipe hurts all of the people of Westchester. This is I'll tell you what I'm worried about. I'm worried that this is just the beginning, because 2 weeks ago when we heard our a report from the housing people. They had told us about 6 weeks ago, actually, about this September 30th looming deadline to lose the CDBG funds for fiscal year 2011. So we were aware of this, and we had heard from the people making the reports that, we're working together with the monitor. The monitor is very aware. We want to make sure that, that the county, the governments don't lose that funding. And here's the ironic thing. I know you always make fun of this phraseology, but the ironic thing is, of course, it's the communities who are not in the settlement who stand the most to lose when CDBG funds get pulled out. So I'm saying the county executive has to say the administration and the Board of Legislators are not letting us off the
Ms.
hook.
Borgia, I
by
still
any
have
means,
yet to hear what have they
mishandled? We have to work more collaboratively.
What you listen? You said hold on. You said words like you said words like unfortunate, disgraceful, stalling, political posturing.
I'm saying we have to work more collaboratively.
What have they done wrong? Oh, you're going on and on, Ms. Borgia. What is Mastorino dropped the ball? Where has he dropped the ball?
He's dropped the ball.
You have not. You haven't said one thing.
He is not. He has not reissued the County Board of Legislators. He has said he's not going to introduce a piece of source of income legislation. He has a right to do these things. I'm not saying he doesn't have a right to do these things. Right. Adults have a right to do what they think is in their best interest, but then you have to live with the consequences. This is consequence number one. I'm scared that there's a lot more consequences coming down the road. It's an issue that I care deeply about. I represent Ossining. I represent Peekskill. These are places where affordable housing has revitalized communities. That's been a good thing for our communities. So this is something that I don't think we should monkey with. And plus, the reason why the board that made the settlement did so was that there were threats of fines of up to $500 million. That's real money. That's money that Westchester County is going to be able to for all the residents of Westchester County.
I just, the way your communications people put this thing out was that, and if anybody who didn't actually read it and then hear you right now, they would think that the Astorino administration had been derelict, that they had been conniving, that they had been putting out false numbers, that they had been mishandling and missing deadlines, and what it is, and
they have been missing deadlines. That is
they
true.
have given every.
I am not saying that they have done. I think that they have done a good job in the promotion of the actual building of the housing. They've done as good a job as can be done because, of course, building housing is always going to be complicated, and there's a lot of issues regarding our infrastructure, regarding our home rule, regarding there's a lot of stumbling blocks. And
the trouble is
they have been fine with doing that portion of it, but that's not the only portion of the settlement.
The trouble is that none of that appears in this missive, and that ends up being
it does appear in that missive. It says exactly the things that they're still. Oh, you mean it doesn't say that they've moved forward on the housing?
Doesn't say that. No. And you sit and in your
the federal government is satisfied.
And in the press release,
with these other things.
And in the press release, you come out against stalling, political posturing, and finger pointing when the entire thing, that entire press release, is nothing but, it turns out, political posturing and finger pointing. That's all it is. Because as it turns out, they have made headway. And
obviously, I disagree with that. This is an area.
You're posturing politically and you're pointing fingers.
We are on very, very, very thin ice. I think that the time has come where we need to sit down. We need to sit down with the monitor. We need to sit down with HUD.
We need
to figure out how to move forward with this because the risks are too great.
Catherine Borgia,
I'm sorry. The risks are too great.
You're awesome. Thank you. This is good. I now need to cool down. We need to go walk around the block. And that was excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you for the workout.
Bye.
It was great. Bye-bye. There goes Catherine Borgia. Here comes Ben Tillum real fast. Go ahead, Ben. Just give me the traffic.